Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Pruney, and this is second and a part of a series of Lose Weight and Be Fit. Our first part was all about protein. This part here is going to be about carbohydrates. So we want to give the carbohydrates the respect that they deserve. And if you just watched the first part, you may not have thought that, because we really stress high protein, high protein, high protein. And there is a misconception with high protein and low carbohydrate diets. And as I spoke about in the first part, everything is variable. Everything depends. If you're a high-performance athlete, you need to increase your protein. You don't want to lose your muscle density. Carbohydrates can be and are equally as important, but it depends upon your activity level. So if you talk about, or you hear about low carb, low carb, low carb, for example, a low carb day for me might be 200 grams of carbohydrates. A high carb day could be 1,000 grams of carbohydrates. It just depends on what I'm doing on that day. But when somebody comes to me for help and I try to put them on a program, first of all, we see what they're doing. If we just take a standard example of a 2,000 calorie a day diet, I ask that person, well, how are you responding to that diet? Where do you think you are protein-wise? Some people don't really even know what a protein or a carb is. So just to give you an idea, a nutrient-rich carbohydrate, minimally processed or not processed at all. I mean, that's really where you want to be. They contain greater amounts of naturally occurring nutrients, and they're present in whole grains, starchy vegetables, beans, legumes, yogurt, milk. And speaking of beans and legumes, yogurt and milk, they also have protein in it as well. So how much do we really need? As far as carbs, as in part one, it really depends. So let's assume that you're fit, you're in shape, you're a 130-pound female. There's a range there. I mean, I would say for an average 130-pound female, between 2 grams of carbohydrates to 2.5 grams of carbohydrates per pound of body weight. And if you really don't get that or understand that, or you don't feel like you're getting to where you need to be, that can be 2.6 grams, or it can be 1.8 grams. You'll vary that in that range depending upon where you want to be. Then you look at your calorie intake. If you know that you're gaining weight on 2,000 calories, then you may cut that back. And knowing that each gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories, then you can kind of work backwards from assuming how many calories you need to take in a day. So if you start with a base of 2,000, you may need to add to that. You may need to take that away. Let's go to another example. Say a smaller framed male between 140 and 160 pounds. They're very active. You can consume, a very active male can consume between 3 and 4, maybe even up to 5 grams, the heavier you are. I mean, I consume sometimes 4 or 5 grams per pound of body weight, and I weigh 200 pounds. So I can consume up to 1,000 grams of carbohydrates. Let's now hypothetically say you're not that active. I mean, the most amount of exercises that you get is getting up from your computer and you walk into a back office. So your activity is more limited. Then you would want to bring down your carbohydrate, the grams of carbohydrate consumption in the day. So again, how many do I consume? We actually start, no matter what the body type is, we try to start people off with a lower carbohydrate. They're actually getting 25 grams of carbohydrates or close to that per day to try to kick in their metabolism. Now, once they start to get to the point where they want to be, we gradually re-implement the carbs, the low glycemic carbs that we just spoke of, back into the diet. Now, something that's going to spike your blood sugar levels, that's considered high on the glycemic index, and it's very easy to find out what glycemic index is you can search it online. It's glycemicindex.com, and you want to try to keep your the glycemic index foods 55 and lower. And actually, the lower they are than that, the better it is as far as spiking your blood sugar levels. So getting back, how many carbohydrates should I consume? Really, it depends upon your activity level. So I would start with, most people know how many calories that they eat in a day and what they can respond to. Take that caloric intake, if you're trying to lose weight, reduce it, and then work backwards knowing that 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, 1 gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories, and then try and position your nutrients or work a formula of nutrients that's going to work for you. And if you use the grams of carbohydrates for male and female, 3 to 4 for male and 2 to 3 for female, if you're trying to lose weight, I'd go on the lower end, then that's going to help you start to take the weight off. Now conversely, if you're an athlete, you still want to stay lean, you still want to stay fit, then obviously your consumption of nutrients is going to be a little bit higher. I hope this helps and takes some of the confusion out of what's a protein, what's a carb, what's good, what's bad. How can carbohydrates help me enhance my life much better? So in part 1 and part 2, part 1 was all about protein, part 2 is all about carbohydrates. What we do with our physique enhancement program, when we have 3 distinct separate programs for small, medium, and large bones, so an ectomorph, a mesomorph, and an endomorph, and how you're supposed to eat. So our part 1 of the series of Lose Weight and Be Fit, which was predominantly geared toward protein, part 2, which is carbohydrates, in the physique enhancement books, we really lay it out on what exactly the percentages of nutrients that you need to consume based upon your body type, based upon your activity level, and we have all of the menus there as well. So it's definitely a tailored program. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but it's a simplistic program for you, and it makes it easy because once you figure out what body type you are, you classify that, and that tells you how physiologically your body is going to burn these nutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats.